Hey guys, I'm just out on another dog walk with Lil, so I thought I would do a quick little video to keep in touch. Just for everybody that's wondering, I have been working endlessly behind the scenes. I've got a lot of content scheduled, ready to come to the channel, so that's nice. I've like really, I've started to understand that the only way to get ahead of the game on YouTube is to be ahead of the curve. Time goes by so quickly that you think you're doing well by getting out there and filming, and then before you know it, 2 weeks have passed and people are asking where the next video is. It's like, wow, it just feels like a never-ending cycle. So the only way to get ahead of that and maybe allow yourself to take the foot off the gas is by going out there, filming, and then taking a few days to get all that edited and scheduled up on the channel. And so that's what I've been doing, and it's actually been quite fun. It's given me some breathing space, which I really enjoy. And so I've just needed to get out of the house recently. I don't know if you guys get like this, but I've just been in a bit of a rut. And it seems like the more you stay in that rut, the easier it is to carry on in that predicament. Sometimes you just got to say, screw this. Get up, get dressed and get out. And it's not easy, like your brain will be screaming at you. Like right now, for example, this is like day 3 of me just being in this rut, not leaving the house. And I've got Lily on the end of the bed staring at me with those little puppy eyes because she wants to go out. And there I am battling with my brain. It's not a nice situation to be in. But then it gets to a point where I think, no, screw this, come on, let's get out. And every ounce of me is trying to fight against that. Every ounce is like, no, just go back upstairs, climb back into bed, just have a sleep, don't do this. And I'm thinking of all the worst case scenarios, and you've got to fight against it. And the minute you do, you'll feel better. It is quite scary though. Like, I don't know if any of you new people here are aware, but I suffer with something called OCD, Intrusive Thoughts. And Lily, stop, 1 minute, I'm trying to reach my eye. Yeah, so I have thoughts that aren't mine. People will say, well, how do you have thoughts that aren't yours? Well, because they're intrusive. They pop into my brain. I don't know where they come from. And most of the time they disturb me. And they're disgusting, and they're horrible, and they're vile, and they're dark, and it can be a whole manner of things. And anybody that's looked into this will know, or anybody that suffers with this, you'll know it's not a very nice thing to live with, especially if you're a good person, which I'm assuming most people are. But yeah, like I hate those, sometimes, especially with me being into meditation and spirituality and things like that. I'm a bit of a hippie at heart. I always see posts and memes that say, you are what you think. What you think of becomes your reality. And I hate those posts because they don't take into account people like myself. I spend most of my days thinking about things that I hate, and it's not through choice, because I feel like at heart I'm a real positive person, but I'm constantly battling against negative things. And that's why I've got to be very careful with regards to what I watch or what I consume. I can't watch murder documentaries, or even, I used to like rap music, but even listening to negative music and stuff now can really just play on me for days and weeks. And where I come unstuck is because, sorry guys. So everybody has intrusive thoughts at some point in their life, right? It can be silly things, like someone might walk in a room and you might think, oh, I'd love to throw this ball at their head right now. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, where did that come from? That's an intrusive thought. It's a thought that pops out of the ether from nowhere. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. My problem is that I have OCD, so what happens with me is I have a negative thought come in, which is really disturbing. It knocks me, and I obsess on it. And because I obsess on the thought, the dark negative thought, over and over and over and over and over, I start feeling like a bad person. So then I lock myself away, I become a recluse, which then makes me feel more depressed, and the depression creates more thoughts, which I then obsess about, and it's just a vicious circle. I have got help about this. I've seen like professionals about it and mental health people, and that's why I'm not ashamed to talk about it. because I know for a fact that it will be able to help a lot of people out there. A lot of people don't even know what they're dealing with. For a long time, I didn't. For a long time, I thought that I was crazy. And in all honesty, the day that I went to go seek help was the breaking point, because I'd lived with this my whole life, and I always thought that there was something wrong with me, or I was mental, or a psychopath, or some heartless human being. And I thought honestly that, I need to go get help. And the day that I decided to do that, obviously before that I started having problems at work. I couldn't focus properly because the thoughts were always there. I couldn't deal with customers properly because I'd be scared of the interaction. Anxiety would creep in. It was a horrible place to be. And so one day at work I decided, right, screw this. I'm going to go seek help, but this might be my last day of freedom. They're going to lock me away and put me in a padded cell. And I was terrified. I had 2 small children at this point. Two small children and my eldest daughter as well. So I thought it was going to be my last day of freedom, but I needed to do it because my job was being affected, my social life was being affected, and it was a scary, worrying time. But you know what? It was one of the best things I've ever done, because the minute I went in there and I started opening up, and believe me, I opened up, it all just came flooding out, tears and all. This woman just moved her chair closer to me, put a hand on my leg, and she looked at me and was like, "Ben, you're not a bad person." She said, "Do you think bad people would come and have this conversation with me? Do you think they'd be sat here now crying and, opening up the way that you are if you was a bad person? Bad people don't care about stuff like this. They don't seek validation as to whether or not they're a good or bad person. They just do things." And, I learned a hell of a lot about OCD, intrusive thoughts. And it's so normal and it's so common, she said, but the reason people don't speak about it, or the reason people don't know about it, is because of the context. It's so dark, and some of these thoughts that I have are disgusting. I always get asked by these professionals, "Do you ever think about taking your own life?" It's like, what? Every single day. Every single day. That's like the norm to me. That's like one of the most timid thoughts that I have. And so you can imagine with those thoughts, and one's worse than that, how dark my reality can be. It's hard to get out of that situation. But going back to what I was just saying, most people with OCD, intrusive thoughts, we don't act on our thoughts. We're not psychopaths, we're not crazy people. They even know what part of the brain it comes from, which is a very interesting thing as well. I'm a geek, I like to learn everything about anything. And it was fascinating to find out that it comes from the oldest part of the brain. Part of the brain called the reptilian brain, right at the back. And the reason that intrusive thoughts happen is because at one point in our life, being cavemen, we needed some kind of built-in early warning system. Otherwise we'd just be wandering out of the cave nilly-willy and getting killed by, a whole host of animals or situations. So occasionally we'd need an intrusive thought to come into our head to keep us in. And those odd days that we stayed in might have been one day extra that we got to survive, and one day extra that we got to do other things that were constructive. And that's what kept us alive. The trouble is, we don't need that now. We don't need that part of the brain anymore. Everything is safe, everything is a comfortable standard of living. But the brain doesn't know that, right? The brain doesn't know that times have changed. So we still do have these thoughts. And something else that this lady told me was the brain also doesn't know what is real or what is a thought. When I have a dark negative thought, my anxiety kicks in to overdrive, as if this is happening in front of me, or if it's already just happened. I get the sweaty palms, my heart starts racing, I feel frightened, I'm in fight or flight. And it's a horrible situation because there's nothing happening. It's all in my head. But the brain doesn't know that. The brain just wants you to move. It wants you to get the hell out of there because it thinks this thought or this situation is real. I hope this is helping someone. This is why I'm talking about this. There's no other reason. I don't get kicks out of this. It's not an easy conversation for me to have. But I know there'll be a lot of people out there, men and women, that struggle with this, and they'll be sat there now thinking, wow, that is exactly what I've been going through, and I thought I'm crazy. Well, you're not, trust me. I'll be the brave one to stand up and say, yeah, it's shit. It's a horrible standard of living, and you fight against it every single day. But it's normal. You're not a freak, you're not a psychopath, you're not a bad person. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that. Is there anything else I need to mention about intrusive thoughts? No, I think I've mentioned everything. So yeah, for you guys out there that maybe struggle with mental health, and maybe this is a part of your mental health, having these dark, depressing thoughts all the time, just please look at it for what it is. It's the brain trying to help you. I know it doesn't seem like it. I know it seems like you're a horrible person, and if everybody knew my truth, they'd be disgusted about the things I think about. No, chill. Because that's the mindset I was in. That's what I was thinking. And you convince yourself, because you're obsessing so much on these negative thoughts, you convince yourself, well, I must be a bad person because I keep thinking about it. Well, I keep thinking about it because I've got OCD. Doesn't make me a bad person. My brain works differently to other people. And that's why I've just mentioned that I have to be very careful about what I consume. I can't sit there and watch, horror film after horror film. I can't watch murder documentaries on Netflix. I can, but I have to do it very sparingly. I can't be watching, binge watching any of this stuff, because it will be on my mind for years later. I remember I watched a documentary, this must have been about 2 years ago now, and it was 24 Hours in Police Custody. I think it's like a UK series, and it was about this guy that got arrested for smuggling heroin. It was one of the biggest arrests in UK history, I think, for drug smuggling. And on the face of it, people might be like, well, that's not a bad thing. I mean, it is bad, but it's not like, wow, I have to take time out bad. But it was one scene that caught me off guard, and it was his boy who looked up to his dad. He lived a normal lifestyle. He was always going away on family vacations. His son was completely oblivious to this life that his dad led. And on the face of it, he looked like a normal guy, like a really respectful, upstanding dad, until he was arrested, and he had to make a phone call from prison on his son's birthday to tell him that he wasn't going to be there. And the way that they put the music to it, and the way they framed this scene, was touching to me. How someone can make a mistake like that in their life and it wrecks everything. That kid's never going to have his dad back for many, many years. They're going to miss out on so much. And that's where my mind went. And so for years, I was still Googling this guy, seeing how long he had left in prison, and if there's any changes or what his son's doing now. It was crazy. But that's my brain. And there is plus sides to this. The plus sides are that I obsess, because I've got the obsessive compulsive disorder, so I can be very compulsive, but the obsession part sometimes works in my benefit. Like, for example, art. Once I took an interest in art, I obsessed. I became very good at art really, really quickly. It's the same with videography and creating content. It didn't take me too long to find my way around a camera or YouTube, and I obsess. If I like something, I obsess, and that can be a good thing as well as a bad thing. So yeah, this video probably has taken many people off guard. It's not talking about the extraterrestrial stuff that we usually talk about, or the cryptid stuff, but it's still a nice vlog video for me to get out there, and I will do more of this stuff. If anybody's got any questions, anybody wants to ask me things, trust me, I've lived with this my whole life. My whole life I've lived with this. So there's nothing I can't tell you about OCD, intrusive thoughts, and how it works. People say to me sometimes, so when you have these thoughts, like, is it a voice? It's like, no, I'm not hearing voices. It's my thoughts. It's my thoughts, I just don't know where they come from. And like I've said, they can catch me off guard. I can be doing something completely unrelated. I can be having a meal with the family. I can be out with friends, and all of a sudden, boom, a thought will come into my head from nowhere. It'll be dark, it'll be depressing. And people, which has happened throughout my life, will be like, you all right, Ben? Everything all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not good though. I'm dealing with something inside my head, and I just don't want to show it. Or be a killjoy, or change the atmosphere in the room. So I'm dealing with it internally, and this has happened throughout my life. And because of that, I've struggled to have friendships. I've struggled to have relationships because one minute I'm up, next minute I'm down. One minute I'm happy, next minute I'm not. And it's a struggle. But, and there's no cure for it. You know, you can take medication for OCD intrusive thoughts to try and quieten your brain down, but ultimately my experience of that is that I become like a zombie. The medication that I've taken for it just makes me like a walking zombie, really. Like, there's no emotion to me, and I don't want to live like that. So the way I've learned to deal with it is stuff like this, getting out with Lil, because Lil don't give a shit. I mean, she's my best friend, but you know, without her I'd be doomed, because on those bad days where I can't get out or I'm struggling, she don't give a shit. She's just like, Dad, come on. She actually even brings my socks to me. She'll go into another room, she'll find my socks, because for Lil, she associates dog walks with me putting my socks on and getting my shoes on, ready to go. So she'll just come marching in with a pair of socks, like, we're off, let's go. And I need that, because you can't argue with that. She needs to go out at the end of the day, regardless of how much I'm struggling. So she keeps me on my toes, bless her. But anyway, guys, yeah, I just thought I'd really make this post. I feel like it's a valuable post, and one that people here will definitely need to hear. OCD intrusive thoughts is not spoken about half as much as it should be, and I understand why. The sad part of this is I wonder how many people, you know, have taken their lives thinking that they're bad people, or thinking that there's something wrong with them because of these thoughts, or, you know, worst case scenarios. It's sad because they won't have had the courage to go speak to someone like I did. Courage is the wrong word. That makes them sound weak. They're not weak. They're people struggling. But what I'm trying to say is it's sad that, you know, they didn't find out that actually they were really good people and this was just a normal thing they were suffering with. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get to the woods with Lil and maybe do some more filming there for another day. Take it easy until next time. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and if you are in a position to do so, then please do look after somebody else as well.